You'll get more than you expect with McValue at McDonald's. Like deals on your late night go-tos when the party goes till dawn. And savings on their faves. So date night always passes the vibe check. Plus, when the fam shows up for the weekend, you can show out for breakfast.
Buy one breakfast sandwich, add one for $1. Only in the app. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid once a day. Must opt into rewards. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Frequency Podcast Network. Stories that matter, podcasts that resonate.
It's one big story for point junkies and frequent flyers. If you're one of the more than 9 million Canadians that are an Aeroplan member, then you should know there are some big changes coming for earning rewards and frequent flyer status. Here's the Coles notes. Come next year, Aeroplan members will earn points based solely on the dollars they spend rather than the distance they fly, which is the case now. Today on The Big Story, we're looking at the big changes announced by Aeroplan and Air Canada. Joining us to talk about this, to figure it all out, is Barry Choi. He's a personal finance and travel expert. Barry, thanks for being here, my friend. I know you're jetting off to Europe soon, so thanks for giving us a few minutes of your time here on The Big Story.
I love talking about travel, credit cards, loyalty. Happy to be here.
And full disclosure, so do I. Barry and I are friends, and I hold a frequent flyer status on Air Canada like many Canadians do. So I'm into this. A lot of people are into this, Barry. And a lot of people are angry about what Aeroplan and Air Canada announced this week. I want to get into it. Two of the big things, though, that stand out to me that we got to talk about here as far as these changes are concerned are, first of all, how you become a frequent flyer on Air Canada. We'll start there. Previously, this year, you had to fly a certain amount of actual miles and spend a certain amount of dollars combined to be considered a frequent flyer by Air Canada and get all the perks that go along with it. Come next year, that's not the case. You just got to spend a lot of money. Am I right? Miles don't matter anymore.
It was, to be clear, status qualifying miles or status qualifying segments. So one of those two plus the dollars. And yes, moving forward, it is all money based. So technically speaking, it is less complicated, but will you need to spend more? 100% you're going to need to spend more. There's no doubt about it.
So, here's an example, right? Let's say right now I'm flying from Toronto to Paris, and round trip, the actual mileage, real world mileage, is about 6,800 miles. So right now, Air Canada would give me 6,800 Aeroplan points for that, and I would be credited for my frequent flyer status at 6,800 points. Come next year, it's just going to be based on how much I paid. I could maybe pay $500 if I got a good deal on that round trip. So it would go from 6,800 points to just 500 potentially, Barry.
Potentially even less, because let's be very clear, it only applies those credits or status qualifying credits you're getting only applies to base fare and any carrier surcharges. It does not apply to any taxes. And this example you use of Paris, it is a known sweet spot for the wrong reasons, because this specific route or to Europe in general, you're going to earn less for sure. Another good example is someone who's going to fly like to the Middle East, Dubai, or even Asia in economy. Definitely anyone who's flying in economy is not going to benefit from these changes. But I think that's part of the design. If you look at the details, they're really giving more to those who currently have status, specifically 50, 75, and it's super elite. They have more multipliers. They're assuming these people are buying revenue, cash, business fare tickets. Those people are on one of those routes. If they're playing business class and they've got high status, they could earn almost 30% on one flight to requalify. But someone who's just booking an economy flight, they almost have zero chance. So it's a really weird trade-off. But I think it's obvious to everyone that Aeroplan and Air Canada is appealing to their biggest spenders. And at the same time, I don't blame them, because it makes the money, and that's what businesses do. Does it hurt me personally? Yeah, I get affected. I'm going to get less, but it makes sense from a business stand case.
Yeah, I get it makes the money, and we've seen all the U.S. airlines go in this same direction. So this is really, no surprise. But I would argue, Barry, that this is not a loyalty program anymore because they're not rewarding loyalty. Air Canada is only rewarding those who spend the most money.
I don't think you're wrong. You know what I mean? It's a revenue program, right? Like, do you want to call it that? But it is very complicated because you and I, like, we talked. We are friends. We've discussed this quite a bit, and I don't want to say we argued, but we talked about the different points. It's still a loyalty program because if you do get this status, you are still getting certain perks. But the issue now is that it's designed to get you to spend. So from a consumer standpoint, it's really funny. You and I have complained about, we can never use our e-upgrade credits.
When you become a frequent flyer on Air Canada, you get a lot of little nice perks. You get to skip the security line and the check-in line, and you get to board a little earlier. But the biggest perk of them all, the reason why people want to become a frequent flyer on Air Canada, is because of e-upgrade credits, they're called, which allow you, right, Barry, to get into business class while just paying for an economy class ticket.
If you know the game, it was I wouldn't call it a loophole, but it was the best advantage of being a status member. Those e-upgrade credits, you were able to get business class flights confirmed for a relatively cheap price. But this is what I mean, about consumers complaining. We complain, you and me, like I complain about it all the time. I say, I can never use my e-upgrade credits. There's so many people above me in status. Now with these changes, technically speaking, there will be fewer people with status. So in theory, it'll be easier to use those upgrades. But at the same time, now people are complaining, it's harder to get status. So while I 100% understand it from both points of view, we can't have it both ways. We can't expect to get more benefits and then make it easier to get status. That's not how businesses work. I know it sounds terrible, but that's just the reality.
If I'm not a frequent flyer on Air Canada right now, and come next year when these changes happen, here's the deal. To become even the lowest tiered frequent flyer, tell us how much money you're going to have to spend, Barry.
It really depends on how you do it, right? So
if I'm just in economy, though.
If you're just in economy, you're going to have to be spending an insane amount of money.
At least $25,000 just for the base frequent flyer status. Correct.
Base $25,000, and even then, it's like that's just on flights. And who's spending that much on flights, right? So they also have credit cards where you can earn the status qualifying credits or everyday spending for them to earn status. So if you spent $80,000 on a premium credit card, you would get $25K status. But that premium card costs $599. And then, as we mentioned, you're getting some fewer benefits. So it's kind of like, what's even the point now if you're on that lower end and not spending that much? But I think at the same time, if we look away from loyalty for a second, if Air Canada is not going to offer someone who's unlikely to make status anymore, what's your benefit of sticking with Air Canada? Does it make sense for you to start looking at WestJet, Air Transat, Sunwing, any other carrier, and to focus on the lowest price? And maybe the answer is yes. And I feel like that's actually a good thing, because if enough people do it, maybe Air Canada sees it and says, maybe we went too far on this. Maybe we went too extreme. We're catering to our more expensive customers, but now we're losing market share. Does that make a difference? And maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. But I do think it is an opportunity for consumers now to be like, hey, there are other options. I don't need to be loyal because I may not be getting anything in return.
There is the risk that this could hurt business at Air Canada, that people will say, I'm not going to spend as much as I did before because I'm not getting as much.
That is 100% true. And I have to assume that there's some kind of accountant, actuary, or someone who's calculated these numbers, right? They've probably realized that the person spending 5 business class tickets, flex fares every single year are worth dozens of people who are looking for the cheapest fare possible in economy, right? So someone's done the math and they've realized it's more expensive. And they're like, hey, if we can get these big spenders to spend more, it's even better. And on top of that, it's not just the big spenders. If you're like 75 or 50K, I'm sure they'll come up with some promos that will give you just enough status qualifying credits to push you to the next level. And to be perfectly fair, once you get to the higher tiers, the benefits you are offered are better. You have more options. So it can be a very good experience. But yes, you have to spend for it.
This is bad, the change for those who fly longer haul to Europe or to Asia and are looking for a decent price on that ticket, because again, you're only going to make the miles based on the price. It is good news though, right, Barry? For those who do a lot of flying more regionally in Canada, we know ticket prices are high for Canadian domestic flights. But if I'm doing a lot of that, say for work, Toronto, Ottawa, or, Vancouver, Calgary, those dollar amounts are going to add up pretty quickly. And this could actually be better for me, right?
That's exactly it. I noticed a lot of people talking about this. They were saying that they fly frequently within Canada, 2 or 3 times a month, like say a Toronto to New York or a Toronto to Montreal. So they might be doing like 40, 50 flights a year, but they were never reaching the top status. But they were literally the people who were on the plane the most. So now to them, they feel like, oh, I am a frequent flyer and now I am being awarded for it, as opposed to the people who really understood the system and kind of gamed it, and may have done miles runs just to get their status. And I'm not saying this is a perfect solution. It is not at all. But it does create those new sweet spots. Another person I came across who said they're retired, they travel twice a year, usually to Asia, and they fly business class. And they were telling me that now they actually will probably earn status, whereas before they had zero chance of making status. And this is someone who's just flying twice a year. So it's really interesting how it can affect different people in different ways.
If you're willing to pay top dollar, you can actually get status pretty quickly under this. I mean, it's not uncommon to see an Air Canada business class return ticket Toronto, London, Heathrow for $8,000 to $10,000. If you're right, I mean, and if you're buying that full fare business, you get these multipliers next year. It's 4 times the actual sticker price. One round trip, you could be looking at status, right, with one round trip if you want to pay that amount.
It really is. Like there was one calculation I looked up. If you're an elite member and you're flying to Japan on a business class fare, it's like you got a 4 times multiplier just on the fare, and then your status would put you at 5 or 6 multipliers. So all of a sudden you're looking at like 9 to 10% nine to 10 times the multiplier. So one flight to Asia, and I'm talking about one way here, would get you 30% of the way back to super elite. So obviously, if you did a round trip, then all of a sudden you're looking at 60%. So you can see how it's kind of designed to be a little bit of a game, to be like, oh, if I do one more flight, I'll requalify for super elite. And then once you get to that, it's like, oh, if I do one more business class flight, I can bank a year of super elite. So do you know what I mean? So it's a very interesting way, because consumers are used to gamifying the system. And now it seems like the loyalty programs are doing it. And to be fair, it's no different. Even loyalty programs like PC Optimum, similar, right? Consumers know how to get maximum value out of it. And at the same time, PC Optimum knows how to get consumers to spend. It's really weird how that works.
Yeah, there are benefits. The flip side of this is that, I have 35K status on Air Canada now, and it costs me only about, in terms of dollars, only about $4,000. Next year, it could be as much as $35,000 if, you want to do that, start an economy and do that. So there is this huge trade-off there. I also want to mention the other big part of these changes, Barry, and that's, currently when you fly on Air Canada, those very valuable Aeroplan miles that everyone loves, you get those based on the actual mileage of your trip. But much like with the status component of this, the Aeroplan miles you get next year will be based on how much the ticket costs. So people are going to earn Some people are going to earn less Aeroplan miles when they're actually flying, correct?
Yeah, so it goes into those scenarios we already talked about. If you're flying economy and you're flying a long haul, like to Europe or Asia, no status, you're going to earn less points. But if you're on those shorter flights, you will end up earning more points because the base fares are so high. That said, I don't really have a problem with this in the sense that no one's flying just to earn Aeroplan points, right? Like it's just so much quicker to earn Aeroplan points by just getting an Aeroplan credit card. and then you can earn points on every single purchase. So me, I wouldn't obsess about it too much. Like, of course, it's going to be disappointing if you're taking that long haul flight and all of a sudden you're earning 3,000 points less. But 3,000 points in the grand scheme of things is nothing, especially if you have an Aeroplan credit card already.
You'll get more than you expect with McValue at McDonald's. Like deals on your late night go-tos when the party goes till dawn. And savings on their faves. So date night always passes the vibe check. Plus, when the fam shows up for the weekend, you can show out for breakfast.
Buy one breakfast sandwich, add one for $1. Only in the app. Limited time only at participating McDonald's. Valid once a day. Must opt into rewards. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Are these changes designed to push more consumers towards these co-branded credit cards, Barry?
It's not just the co-branded credit cards. They want you to engage with everything that will make them more money. So you've got Star Alliance partners where you earn extra points. They're retail partners such as LCBO, Uber, Marriott. And then, the credit card. So the credit card spending is an interesting one because previously you could earn miles or segments when you spend, I think, $5,000 or $10,000, depending on the credit card. And there was no real cap. So it was a really easy way for high spenders to bank a lot of things because it would carry over. And then all they really had to do is focus on the spend. But now that they've changed it where there's a cap, it becomes a little bit harder. So you might need to spend more on the airline, but the airline is hoping that, hey, you don't need to spend that much on the airline. Spend on the credit card too. But again, it comes down to they're trying to get those people who spend a lot. For some people, it sounds crazy that it's like, oh, I'm never going to spend $125,000 on my credit card. But there's a lot of people with small businesses or huge businesses that spend that in a month. So you can see where that money, where they're going after that money. But at the same time, even as a regular consumer, if you have a premium credit card, or even a core Aeroplan credit card, it's still the easiest way to earn points. It still gives you some Air Canada perks. And more importantly, those points can be used to offset the cost of your flights in the future. So there are still benefits.
And, there are a lot of people listening who have the Aeroplan related credit card and earn the points that way and then buy flights with them. And it's important to mention these changes we're talking about don't affect that at all, right?
No changes to the redemptions side of things at all right now. That said, Aeroplan does use dynamic pricing, so prices are always based on supply and demand. Sometimes I've had some great flights deals, and sometimes I can't believe how much I've paid for them. But that's just the way air travel works, and it's no different from revenue fare.
We talk about the credit cards here. I mean, in some ways, airlines nowadays, they've become more of a financial institution than they are an airline in many ways, right?
It's not just airlines. You see them at retail. You see a lot of telecom companies that have credit cards because they all get part of the fee when people use those credit cards. So if they can get a banking license, it's in their best interest. You start to see them start expanding their banking products, more partnerships. It just gives them more options from revenue and marketing. So it does make sense, but as long as they're giving the consumers an incentive to get those cards and to spend, it's a fair trade-off.
What's one thing you dislike most about these changes, Barry, as a travel expert?
I don't like that the general consumer, we kind of touched on this already, that they're not really going to get anything out of it, right? So if you really have no chance of getting status if you're just getting a casual traveler now. But maybe that's by design. Like, does it really matter to someone who travels 2 or 3 times a year to have any potential of earning status? But like you said, I do feel like then it loses the whole point of being loyal, right? So now I'm going to start looking at other fares. And in the end, to me as a consumer, it does come down to the bottom line. Even though I have status and I would love to get status again, I cannot justify spending $500 more per person on Air Canada just to catch my status. So there are some negatives to it. And I really don't like how the credit card, how it's capped, and some of the benefits have been taken away at the core levels. So, but again, it's designed for the spenders, and unfortunately, I am not on that side.
Even those who stick with this, Barry, and pay the extra money and keep the status next year, they're going to get fewer of one of those bigger perks we were talking about, those upgrade credits. Air Canada won't be handing out as many now, right? They just announced that.
Not necessarily. So on the core levels on the 25 and 35, I believe that is 100% true, right? You're going to get fewer credits. But at the same time, because of the new milestone rewards, you can actually earn even more e-upgrade credits. You just have to choose them. Some of the credits are automatically given when you hit certain status qualifying credits. But at other times, you can actually choose your rewards. So you could choose from, like, say, a priority reward, more e-upgrade credits, discounts off of hotel or car rental redemptions. I don't know why you would choose that, but it is an option. So what I like is that it is designed to give consumers more choice and to pick the ones that will benefit them the most. But of course, I'm upset that now I'm not getting both. Now I have to choose, right?
Yeah. It's important. We've casted a critical eye at some of these changes. But if you look at the Aeroplan program on a whole, this is a pretty powerful points program and a good one still, right, Barry? Or would you say it's good?
I do think this is what gets lost quite often. And I get why people like to complain about loyalty. But it's really fascinating as someone who studies loyalty. I always tell people you can tell what kind of person is running a loyalty program. You can tell when they're a banker, and you can tell when they were actually into loyalty. And the people who are really into loyalty and run a loyalty program, they still give things back to consumers. And I think as Canadians, we're actually really lucky to have Aeroplan because it is still one of the best airline loyalty programs in the world. All you need to do is look at our competition. Look at WestJet's. It's not any better. In fact, you could argue it's much worse. They have fewer flights. The status that you get, yes, you have to spend with them too, but the benefits you get aren't very good. So they've just devalued, where at least Aeroplan, you could argue that they've given some better to the people who spend more. So, and then you look at other airlines around the world, like you'd be shocked at how good Aeroplan really is.
What about the Air Miles program, those blue cards that so many Canadians still have?
I love Air Miles, but I just feel that they've got the wrong name. And they can't change it because Air Miles is a legacy program. It was one of the original travel programs. But these days, they are more of a general rewards program. And obviously, you can still use your points for travel, but they're being more innovative with their data and how people can earn Air Miles. They've got card-linked offers where you can use your Air Miles MasterCard and earn extra points, or even any Canadian-issued MasterCard. They got specific products. So I love that the loyalty space in Canada, there's so many different options. But I don't think comparing Air Miles to Aeroplan is a fair comparison. I would compare, say, WestJet Rewards to Aeroplan. And when you really look at those two programs, you'll realize how good Aeroplan really is.
I'm not trying to do a humble brag by any means, I promise you, Barry. But to prove your point on what a powerful program this is, earlier this year, I traveled from Toronto to Beijing via Frankfurt in Lufthansa first class. We're talking the caviar, the champagne, the whole 9 yards. It would have cost me on a cash basis $20,000 or something ridiculous like that. Instead, I paid $70 in taxes and 130,000 Aeroplan miles, which is pretty easy to come by for a lot of people, right?
Yeah, and it's not even that crazy these days. Even for me personally, we've talked about this before we started recording. I'm flying to Europe and flying back from London, and when I booked the flight, it was only 23,000 points to fly from London to Toronto in economy. I think the taxes were about $200 or something like that, but the fare itself was maybe $800 or around there. So I saved a good amount of dollars, and to your point, 23,000 points is not very difficult to get. You sign up for a credit card, you probably get 50,000 points just like that. So to me, there is still a lot of good value. Even I'm going to Hong Kong next year. I got to go to Vancouver first. My Toronto to Vancouver only cost me 11,000 points. Like some of the fares are really good if you book early enough and if you have the points, of course.
This whole thing can be a complicated subject if you're not sort of into it. But it can also be basic in the simple reward aspect of it. Barry, for those listening who are not at all into points, but want to get that deal on a flight, how do they get into this? What's a simple way to get into this whole points world?
To me, I think the most important thing is to think about your goals first. So say you live in Vancouver, but your family is from Halifax and your goal is to travel once a year to go back home and to visit family, right? See what airline will get you there the easiest, whether it's WestJet or Air Canada, figure that out. And then once you realize that's the airline that's going to get you there, then start collecting those points. Alternatively, say you just want to stay at a really fancy hotel, you know which loyalty program that is, whether it's Marriott or Hilton, same idea. Figure out what's the points, figure out your goal, figure out what points you need, and then get a credit card to help you reach those goals. Because the fastest way to earn points for almost any consumer will be via credit card spending, not flying or staying at a hotel.
Yeah, I should look to get a credit card that gets me points. Right? I mean, do you pay cash for anything, Barry, as a big points expert?
Only when I have to. When they don't take credit, there are a few stores which only take cash that I go to.
Because you are leaving a lot on the table when you're not using your credit card in this regard, right?
That is 100% true, but full disclosure, when people use credit more, they tend to spend more. And an unfortunate reality is people who are not paying their credit card bills in full and on time are subsidizing my travel because they're paying interest charges. So there is always a cost to these points, whether you're paying for it or someone else.
Last question here, Barry. Points programs, if you know, they always seem to get a little bit worse. They always seem to devalue a little bit. They're never really getting a lot better, right? That's kind of the way they all go, not picking on Aeroplan here. So my question is, where do you see this program going, as good as it is? And is there an incentive maybe for me to spend what miles I have now if things are going to get a bit worse going forward?
Generally speaking, you should be spending your Aeroplan points or any loyalty points as quickly as you can, right? So if there's no point in hanging on to your points, because they could all of a sudden tomorrow say, hey, it's going to cost you more points. And this, again, applies to any loyalty program. So it's always in your best interest to spend those points. But at the same time, you think about your goals. If you want to save up a little bit more, maybe fly Singapore again, it's worthwhile to save your points. But again, if your bottom line is to save as much money as possible, I wouldn't even think about loyalty. I would focus on just finding ways to save money on that airfare.
What was your greatest use of points ever?
Oh, I flew Emirates first class from Dubai to Toronto. That flight alone was probably $20,000. Shower in the sky. This was with Alaska Miles 7 or 8 years ago. And I think it only cost 75,000 points. That was like an eternity ago in the points game. It was a sweet spot. But I'm actually really proud of that London to Toronto flight I was telling you about, because it's such a good value and it required zero effort.
It's a crazy game if you get into it. Going to be a little bit tougher maybe with Air Canada next year. Depends, though, on how much you're willing to spend. Barry Choi, a personal finance expert. Check out his Instagram, Barry_Choi. Barry, we really appreciate it.
No problem, anytime.
That was the big story. A reminder, you could send us feedback on this episode or any episode by emailing us at hello@thebigstorypodcast.ca. You can find us on the Seeker app, that's SEEKR, or on all your favorite podcast players. Please rate, review, follow, and share. I'm Richard Southern. Thanks for listening.